Right, just send this. And that's it. I'm done. Work's finished. What to do? Cricket's on. Could go watch the cricket. Oh, the cactus. Yeah, let's go play. It's not productive. Yeah, probably should do some Welsh. Which book, though? Teach Yourself? Nah, let's do the colloquial. Unit 7. Here we go. Maybe some Duolingo instead. Yeah, let's go. Do you like skipping? Yeah, done it. This Welsh is going pretty decent. Right, let's maybe let's watch some news in Welsh.
Helo, fe enw i Iwan Rheon a dwi'n chwarae Joe. Enw'r gyfres ydy'r golau, a mae'r gyfres i gyd yn cael ei seilio ar pobl eisiau ffeindio gwif, a dyna beth mae'n fel un o'r themau mwyaf obvious yn y fe, bod pobl eisiau ffeindio'r gwir a ffeindio beth sydd wedi digwydd.
Oh, I don't understand any of this. Wow, it's hot today. So, am I ditching Duolingo? Well, to be honest, that's a little bit of a clickbaity title because I've already kind of ditched it months ago, in fact. Don't get me wrong, Duolingo isn't a bad product and you will learn something. But to be honest, you'll learn something from most language learning techniques, strategies, apps, systems, whatever. My issue with Duolingo is actually I think you can get a lot of what Duolingo has to offer in different, more convenient, more effective ways. So probably all of you who are watching this know, but for those of you who don't know, Duolingo is a language learning app. And to be honest, I think it's fantastic for one key reason. It offers the ability for people to learn some rather unusual and obscure languages. For example, Scots Gaelic, Hawaiian, Welsh is maybe not that unusual, but it's difficult to find decent online services or apps to assist you in learning it. I think they have Ossa language in the incubation period, so they're going to release it in the future. Klingon, Esperanto, many kind of more bespoke languages that are simply difficult to find, even sometimes decent textbooks or books to study from. So from that aspect, I love Duolingo. I will be forever grateful for Duolingo to give me an option to learn Scots Gaelic that wasn't just, for example, this book or this book here. But with Duolingo, you can also learn some very, very popular languages: Spanish, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Chinese, whatever, you know, the popular languages are there. And to be honest, my son has, who is 7, has been using Duolingo for the past year, and he loves it because for him it's like a game, it's like an app. He uses it once or twice a day, and he does learn something. And I've learned something when I've learned Duolingo as well. You know, I want to stress it. I'm not completely trying to put a downer on Duolingo. But yeah, so for those of you that maybe don't know, Duolingo is a language learning app, and it works in two ways. There's 2 types of activities that it presents to you in order to get you to learn language. The first way is by translation. So you're presented something in your native language or the language that you're learning from, and you're required to translate it into your target language, and you know, vice versa. And the second type of activity that they generally provide for you is some form of, let's say, transformation activity, where you are presented something, for example, a spoken piece of audio, and you need to write down or click the buttons to indicate what was said. And for most of the Duolingo courses, that's pretty much all you're going to get, in some different variations and things like this, but that's pretty much it. For the very popular courses, like, as I said, German, Spanish, Italian, things like this, they do have some other types of activity, but 90% of Duolingo activities are some form of translation or some form of transformation, going from spoken or audio to writing something down, something like that. Now, that's great. And as I said, I learned stuff when I've used Duolingo, and I've been using Duolingo for a while now. One of the great things about Duolingo is that my kids like it, so that's great. And also that you can do it when you've got idle time. So often with my students, my language students, they complain to me that they don't have time to learn whatever language I'm teaching them. And I understand it. I don't. Life's busy. We've got other stuff to do. Well, the great thing about Duolingo is you can whip the phone out of your pocket when you're in the supermarket queue, when you're in the post office, when you're waiting for the package machine, and you can do something. You can do a level or whatever. That's great. It's all about using the idle time that we have in our lives to upskill our language knowledge. But something happened to me when I was blasting through the Scots Gaelic course, for example, during the pandemic period, is that I completed the whole course that they had at the time. And I think I was a good way through completing it the second time. And I decided to watch some TV show, some kind of like sitcom that was in Scots Gaelic. And I understood very little. And I realized that even though I'd been dedicating a lot of time to this app on my phone and on my laptop, perhaps it wasn't actually giving me what I needed. So what did I do? Well, I did the thing I probably should have done at the beginning. And I got myself a teacher, I got myself a good textbook, and I continued my journey with Scots Gaelic that way. So you can learn from Duolingo, but you can't just use Duolingo. You need to combine it, in my opinion, with classes with a teacher, with some more structured self-study, with other apps, with some other techniques, some other systems. Duolingo in and of itself is not enough. And to be honest, I think there are some better solutions out there as well. At the moment in my language learning journey, I use 3 primary techniques and 3 systems, we can say, connected to this. So the first one is I try to have real classes with a real teacher. It doesn't need to be somebody who is tremendously well qualified or anything like this. Just somebody who is eager, who is willing to teach, has that kind of passion to take the knowledge that is in their brain and put it into my brain. And I try to have at least 30 minutes, 45 minutes of language tuition in such a format every week. And to assist me in doing that, I use the app iTalki. iTalki is fantastic because you can find teachers from all over the world offering all sorts of different specializations. Skype, Zoom, you name it. I even had one teacher on iTalki who we didn't meet for live conversations on Skype or Zoom. This teacher prepared for me short 30-minute video recordings, which were like his lectures, his lessons on a particular grammar subject. It was great. And to be honest, there's everything there. If you want affordable lessons, you can find affordable lessons. They've got a great system of referral where you can get discounts or bonuses for referring other people. And it's fantastic. Having that ability once a week to use the language that you're learning with another human being is, in my opinion, invaluable. And I spoke about that idle time, and utilizing your idle time is key, in my opinion. But I realized in a lot of situations where I have idle time, I can't always be looking at my phone, particularly if I want to stay alive. So, for example, I live in quite a busy, congested city, and the traffic in the mornings and in the evenings is terrible. I must spend an hour and a half every day sitting in the car. Sometimes I give up on the car and decide to walk to work or walk back home. It takes me about 40 minutes, but sometimes it's more pleasurable than sitting in the traffic. in both situations, I can't be looking at my phone for obvious reasons. So in order to make this time language learning time, I use a service called Pimsleur. Now, Pimsleur have been around a while. They offer lots of different languages, and basically the course is constructed of, I think each course is 30 language lessons, and each lesson is 30 minutes, and it's an audio course. So you listen and you have to repeat. But it's not just listening and repeating. The system is actually quite clever because you have to modify or manipulate the language. You're presented passively some grammar or some vocabulary. You might repeat a sentence that you heard previously, but also they might require you to make a slight modification to it. So they might present for you the language, I don't know, she was skipping, and you're required to, for example, produce that sentence but in the present tense. So she is skipping, or something like this. Some small grammar manipulation you're required to execute. And that is something that Duolingo doesn't have. Duolingo is all about translating what is presented to you. And a lot of that, to be honest, is in Pimsleur as well. But there is the element of manipulation and doing something with the language that is lacking in the Duolingo system. If I remember correctly, the Pimsleur courses are available on Audible. So if you have a subscription with that service, you can usually get part of a course free. I think they break each course down into 4 on Audible, I'm not sure. Or you can buy them directly from Pimsleur. They are maybe a little bit pricey in comparison to kind of like 1 month's membership with Duolingo, although of course there is a free Duolingo version as well. But in my opinion, the Pimsleur method is worth it, and more people should give it a go. I used the Pimsleur method exclusively when I was learning Ukrainian language before I went to work in Ukraine many, many years ago. And this was different because I drilled the Pimsleur method, and actually when I got to Ukraine, I could use the language and communicate with people. Duolingo, I don't think it would have given me that. I had to go and find mine. They were lost in my bag. Another thing that I recommend that you can use to replace Duolingo is a system called Fishki. Now, we call them Fishki, or the brand is called Fishki here where I live in Poland. You can see it just there. I have no idea if this is an international thing or whatever. It doesn't need to be honest, because all it is cards, right? Clean cards. Actually, when you buy most Fishki, they have the vocabulary or the grammar presented on the card for you. And what you're required to do is keep them on you in your pocket or whatever, and you live your day-to-day life. And when you have a free 30 seconds or a free minute, you take these out of your pocket and you learn some vocabulary or whatever. And this is good, and it's very similar to what Duolingo does, but there's one key difference. You're not unlocking your phone. Very often when I have idle time and I want to come to do Duolingo, I unlock my phone. There's an email, there's a message, there's an urgent WhatsApp from somebody, and I never actually get to Duolingo. I never actually get to the practice. This doesn't have that problem because it's just this, right? And you take these out of your pocket and you can learn something. I always have them in my work bag, and yeah, if I'm waiting for a student, or I'm waiting for the dentist, or whenever I've got a free 30 seconds or even a minute is enough to do 1 or 2 words, I take them out and I learn my vocabulary. What you're supposed to do is, once you feel like you've mastered a particular piece of vocabulary, you take that card and you put it in a box somewhere. Keep the box on your desk or something. And then periodically, once a month, once every 2 weeks, you go through the cards in that box. Any of the words that you've forgotten, you remove from that box and you put them back in your dailies. So you relearn it again. And then once you've learnt it and you're comfortable that you've learnt it, you put it back in the box. And you follow that pattern, and eventually you build that vocabulary, you establish that vocabulary. You will forget some stuff, it gets picked up because when you go through the box, you realise that you've forgotten the word or you can't translate it. it comes back to you in your daily cards, and you do it that way. I think this is great as well because you're not limited to the languages that a particular service provides. Like literally whatever language that you're learning, you can make your own little cards. I like Fishkey, they're great, I like this brand, but to be honest, you can just make your own cards and carry them around with you. And it really does work. I mean, when I've had students and I've encouraged them to use this type of method to drill their vocabulary, we really do see improvements. And so that's it really. Yeah, I'm ditching Duolingo. I'm definitely not paying for it anymore. I think I'm on my last month of the premium subscription. The difference between the premium subscription and the basic subscription is basically no ads, and I think on the basic subscription you're limited to 3 mistakes over a certain time period or whatever. Duolingo will still teach you something, but it always needs to be used in combination with other systems, other techniques. My personal advice to people who are learning a language: get yourself on iTalki, find yourself a teacher. It doesn't matter if you have 30 minutes a week, 45 minutes an hour, it doesn't matter. Anything is better than nothing. Any live contact with the language is better than nothing. It doesn't matter if you have, a teacher who's just starting out or a teacher with 20 years of experience. It doesn't matter how much the teacher charges. Just get yourself some real life contact with your target language, using it with a real human being. Pimsleur is great. It's an audio course. You can do it on the go. You're supposed to do each lesson in a 30-minute block, but you don't need to. You can do half of it on the way to work, half of it when you come back home. You're supposed to repeat the class if you feel that you don't know around 8. If you know less than 80% of the material that's presented in a particular lesson. It's flexible for that regard. I listen to Pimsleur when I'm working out in the gym, when I'm driving the car, even when I'm just about to go to bed. You don't learn anything when you're asleep, but in those moments before you fall asleep, you definitely do learn something. And it's not particularly expensive in comparison to some other services or systems like Rosetta Stone, for example, which is also good, but just expensive. And finally, Fishkey, or little cards, whatever they're called in your location. Make some of your own, carry them with you, practice that vocabulary in every free moment that you've got in a way that doesn't involve you unlocking your phone. This is what I've done to ditch Duolingo. Let's see what happens with the future. In the future, I still think Duolingo is a great app. One thing I am sad about is that they removed the ability on Duolingo to complete the course offline. So I used to love, when I was on the plane, for example, doing Duolingo instead of playing some game or whatever. They've removed that ability. It's also not great, but they do offer a wide selection of languages, and you will learn something. It's just follow those pieces of advice that I gave you. iTalki, Pimsleur, some little vocab cards, and you'll see your ability in your target language rocketing.